Hey guys, name is Manny Marroquin, mixing engineer. I got a studio here at Larrabee Studios North. Been here about 14 years. It's my room, and I love it. I think being in the room like this helps me create better mixes, just because I know the room, I know the low end, the top, and everything. So, yeah, as far as my equipment, I'm still sort of a hybrid of analog and digital, meaning that I'm still mixing through the board. And maybe you consider a dinosaur, but that's just the way I still do things. I go through the board. I use it as a sort of a tape machine. I process analog, do parallel compression, EQ, and all that analog. And then I'm doing a lot of plugins as well. So it's a hybrid. I would say it's a 50-50 where some plugins sound great for certain things, and other hardware pieces sound better for others. So it's just knowing what your equipment it does and the tones and colors that it'll give you. New equipment that I'm excited about. I got this the new Bricasti reverb. It's not really that new, but to me it is, and it's probably the best sounding reverbs that I've ever heard. There's a couple plugins that a lot of the wave stuff sounds great. I have this Blunder tongue EQ that was built like in the 70s, early 70s. That's pretty cool. I don't get to use it as much, but it's cool to have. It's a nice toy to have. Yeah, when Alex the Kid, we met, I think about, I don't know, I would say maybe 5 years ago. This guy Gerald Thompson brought him in here. He was very young, actually not that young, but he brought him in, played me some stuff, and I was like, yeah, I was impressed. I was like, yeah, man, this guy has definitely a future. Next thing you know, we did Airplanes together, and I had no idea that was the same guy I met like 3 years prior to that. And from that point on, when we worked on Airplanes, it kind of just moved forward. It's very organic. I feel like when I listen to his stuff, he's got a sound that he's definitely got a sound, and my thing was either you get it or you don't. And when I first heard it, I was like, okay, this is definitely different from what's out there. But that's what I loved about it, that it wasn't like all the other stuff I was getting. So for me it was challenging, but it was a good challenge. I definitely wanted to see how we can decipher this new sound that he was getting, which is a very unique sound, where it's like it's very overdriven, but it's really cool, and it's very. I love the musicianship that he brings to it, and obviously his beats are always incredible, and yeah, he's got this sound, man. And I'm happy for him because he's a talented guy. Yeah, when growing up in the business, come from like kind of a musical background where a lot of my family members always played music, instruments, and there was always music around the house. My mom would play guitar and sing and all that. So I was always around it, but a buddy of mine in, God, I don't know, 6th, 7th grade maybe, started playing drums, and I saw him carrying some drumsticks, and I was like, hey man, my uncle plays timbales, I'm gonna bring my drumsticks over, and then we started like just playing on our books, and we joined the band, and from that point on I fell in love with that, so I started playing drums and kept playing drums. Playing drums from like 12 to 20 or 18, 19 that was my life. So then I went to this school, this music school, Hamilton Music Academy, and they had a small production room, and in the beginning I thought I was going to make beats and produce and stuff, but they also had a reel-to-reel tape machine, and they had a small board, a small desk, and that's when I discovered mixing, where we're separating all the channels, putting them on tape, and being able to manipulate the sound each track, and then ping-ponging, like back then if we had an 8-track, we would record 6 tracks and then bounce into 2, so then you had 6 more, and then you record 4 more tracks, so you would bounce down 1 through 4, 7 and 8 to 5 and 6. So now you had all these tracks on 2, and then you still had 6 tracks, and you just kept doing that, and towards the end, because it's tape, it would start to sound really muffled. So then we bring up the high end, so they were all really hyped at the end. So that process it took so much time, but it was so cool, and it was such a, I mean, it was one of those things where I saw the art form in it, and I was really young, so I was like, you know, this is really cool. You can really change. I remember making beats, and my buddy would play bass and guitars, and we make a song, and then I sit here and record it, and then bring it back on the desk and sort of do a little sub mix. And the manipulation of the song, I remember hearing it this way, and by the end of it was that. And if you heard the first and finished product, the beginning and end, you can feel the difference. Even though they're the same parts, we didn't change parts, same parts, but the ending had a different emotion. Not that it was necessarily better, but that's when I discovered, oh, you can change an emotion based on levels and frequencies and all that. And that to me was really powerful. So I think that was like the first time I realized, I think I was in the 10th, 11th grade, like, oh wow, you can actually change an emotion based with knobs. And that to me, to this day, kind of messes me up, or like, when you think about it. So that's really the initial sort of love for the business, you know, the art of mixing. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, and it's okay, because, you know, I don't understand a lot of other art forms, but I appreciate it. But when people realize what mixing can be, the potential of a mix, it's, you know, it's very valuable, definitely valuable. Let's see, what motivates me as a mixer? You know, it's what comes through here, man. It's just like, luckily, you know, I'm at a level where good music comes through here. I'm really blessed that I get to work with some of the greatest artists and producers. So the inspiration, I mean, if you can imagine coming to work and listening to music that you enjoy, you know, I'm a people person, I enjoy working with people. So that's, I mean, to me, it's not even a job for me. It's like, wait, you're paying me for this? I mean, I can't even believe that you're actually paying me for this. So my motivation is just, man, it's just being around good people, good musicianship, creative people. And at the end of the day, is what comes out of those speakers. You know, and you go home every night and feeling like, oh, that was so I wouldn't say life changing. Sometimes it is, but it definitely changed my mood of the day. You know, I went from being stressed over some stuff, you know, outside of the studio to feeling really good because this actually picked me up, and it's more of a lifestyle than an actual job. Or, you know, let's see, if I have to give any advice to young mixers, you know, it's a tough industry. I mean, I've been talking about all the good stuff, but you know, you just like any career, there's a lot of sacrifice. You know, your personal life. I mean, you better be prepared to be in the studio, you know, 16 plus hours, 24 hours, if whatever it takes. You have to be willing to give a lot of things up, you know, you got to give up a lot of your life for it. But you can look at it one or two ways. You can give up a lot of hours and time and energy and a lot of your life doing something that you don't like, or you can do the same with something you love, and that's the way I see it. So for me, it's not even, I never saw it as a sacrifice until somebody asked me, hey, what advice do you have for young engineers? And that is, hey man, you gotta work hard, you gotta really go for it, and the best thing is, like, you gotta listen to all kinds of music. You can't discriminate with music. Sorry about the phone, guys. But you cannot discriminate. That means that you gotta listen from classical to jazz to whatever's out there. You cannot discriminate, because you never know when you're gonna find a track and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, this sounds like some Coltrane or whoever it is, or some sleigh bells or some 80s Bon Jovi. You never know. But it doesn't mean you got to copy that. It just means that it's an influence that will help you achieve something in your mix. And it could be a subconscious emotion. So my number one advice is you got to work hard, you got to put everything you got, and you got to listen to a lot of different styles of music.